Hey guys, it's SD, your host of the Life Picks Relationship podcast, where people with all sorts of backgrounds, challenges, and life experience show us how they make their relationship extraordinary. Hey guys, hope you're having an awesome day and made that decision to change, because maybe change isn't so hard after all. Today we are speaking to an embodied mindful counselor and the author of Being Together, Padma Gordon. Thank you so much, Padma, for being here. Let's get straight to it. What does a person have to do to have a great relationship?
They should look at the relationship that they're having with themselves and how you're being with yourself. Because how you are with yourself is how you are with someone else. So you really want to start, if you want to have a great relationship, you want to be in full integrity with yourself, really be aligned with yourself.
How do you go and look at yourself? Go and look at myself. I'm looking at myself in the screen right now and I see my curly hair. What do you mean by looking? How can we actually go and look at ourselves?
That's a great question. Super important. Well, you kind of how I like to start is I like to see, how do I feel? I was working with somebody earlier today, and she has a tendency to really keep the conversation going. She can reach out and reach out and reach out, and she can go into rapport with anybody. So I just said, well, are you in yourself? Like, what does it feel like to be in neutral? Kind of like, oh, here I am with me. Because that's foundational. When to look at yourself is to recognize, oh, here I am in myself. Now, if you're at the very beginning of your journey, you might not even know, what is that even to feel who I am? Because it takes a lot, actually, to discover who you are. So turning your attention really inside. For me, I start with meditation or some kind of practice that takes you inside. Maybe it's like a Tai Chi or a Qigong or maybe yoga, something that really brings you into yourself, so that you get a sense of, oh, this is what it feels like when I'm connected to myself and when I'm calm.
Yeah, especially for people who are so detached from themselves and their emotions, meditating could be really hard. What sort of meditations do you use to help people get started?
For me, one of our best allies is our breath, because it's here. It's here all the time until it's not. So just really, you can always turn toward your breath. A great starting place, if you're very, very new to meditation or new to connecting to yourself, set a timer on your phone to go off maybe 3 times a day. It's a good starting point. Work up to once an hour, but 3 times a day. And it goes off, and for 1 minute, you just notice your breath. You don't do any fancy breathing techniques or change anything. Just notice. Just notice, oh, wow, my breath is flowing. Oh, my breath's a little shallow. Just starting with the breath, and you can also do guided meditations. I have guided meditations on Insight Timer. That's a great free app with 55,000 free meditations. So there are tons of guided meditations. And I think for people at the beginning of their meditative journey, it's really useful to have some guidance.
Yeah, for sure. I like that breathing one. It's really, really easy for someone who every time they meditated before never had any good experiences with it. This is like, okay, just notice your breath. I think you could do that. You have to force yourself to actually put everything down and focus on it. But once you're focusing on it, you could go and focus on it. You don't have to worry about like, okay, my mind's going to go and wander or something. So that's great. So once I'm noticing and connecting with myself, what should I be looking for in myself so that way I could see if that's the same way I'm relating to my partner?
You could always start with, because it's easy and most of us notice our thoughts, how am I talking to myself? Am I being kind? Am I saying, oh, my body is too this, it's not enough that, I should be this, I should be that? That's what we call negative self-talk, kind of full of judgment. We want to notice, wow, how am I being with myself? How am I being with myself? Am I being kind? Am I being encouraging? Am I being building? When I check something off my list, do I say, yay, did that? Am I really cheering myself on? So just starting with, am I being really positive with myself? Because that's what you want to do in a relationship, is you want to bring really positive, appreciative, encouraging energy to your partner. And you can't really do it with your partner if you're just kind of giving yourself a hard time.
But what about those people that are nice to everyone else, but they're so hard on themselves?
Well, I think that you have to really look at what you're doing. Because to me, that sounds like there would be a level of self-betrayal going on. I'm being really nice to you. I'm probably going a little past what I want to do. Maybe talking about one of those people who just says, oh, can you help me? I need help with this over at my house. Oh, yeah, sure, I can do that. And someone says, yeah, can you pick my kid up after school? And you say, sure, I can do that. And, can you please do this, drop this off? So somebody who's just a yes, saying yes, 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 and then probably getting resentful, and then quite possibly taking it out on yourself and giving yourself a hard time for not being able to have your voice and be honest and be willing to let somebody have their feelings and maybe be disappointed for a minute, because if you're just saying yes to everybody and giving yourself a hard time, there's an imbalance there. You have to really take care of yourself first as a partner, as a parent, as a pet owner.
Have you always taken care of yourself first?
Have I always? I probably haven't always, and I'm good at it. I really prioritize doing meditation every day, getting exercise every day, eating really good food. And something that helps me to know whether I'm going to say yes or no to something is I pause. I pause and I check in. It's that kind of checking in with yourself that helps in relationships, because if I check in and I listen and I get a no and I say no, I'm in integrity. I'm aligned with myself. And as I said, then you have to deal with somebody else's feelings. And it's okay to let people have their feelings.
When you realize it's okay that you could have your own feelings, then you could go on and say it's okay that other people could have their feelings.
Exactly. And there's a phrase, that's totally it. It's my feelings make sense. And your feelings do make sense. Why? Because you're having them.
Yeah.
Feelings, you can't make feelings be one way or another. They're just your feelings. Now, I'm not suggesting that you act on every feeling. What I am saying, though, is feel your feeling and then wait. And then clarity comes. Then you'll be able to have a clear action rather than a reaction. Usually when we're reacting, we're coming from like a heated state or some sort of distress state.
Noticing your feelings and, like you just said, pausing it and checking in yourself both take that time and just that awareness to say, stop, what's going on? How can I go and deal with this? Now, life lying, the world that we live in, there is no such a concept of stopping. Mm-hmm. How can someone make that into a habit?
Such an important thing. The pause is, in a certain way, a grand gesture. It's a grand gesture you can offer to yourself. You can offer to your partner. If it's going fast and your voices are starting to escalate, that's a great time to pause. How do you do it? You set yourself up. You practice it, right? You practice it with, I'm setting alarms and I'm interrupting what I'm doing. And I mean, with my clients, who are working in their organizations and even now are working online, still, you're in a meeting, a timer goes off, and you say, okay, everybody, let's just close our eyes and take 3 deep breaths. It's becoming part of the world. We have to learn how to pause, because honestly, without slowing down, we're just chasing our tails. There's no discernment if we don't slow down at least long enough to get a sense of, oh, this is what's needed. And this extends to, oh, wow, I've been sitting at my desk for 5 hours. Oh, I haven't stretched. I haven't gotten a glass of water, and because we get into that, as you talked about in the beginning, we're just up in our heads. We're kind of dissociated. We're out of our bodies. We're a lot on screens. We're a lot on our computers and everything. So making it a practice of the pause. And then in a relationship, something I do in my relationship is we have it set up in advance that we know that if it gets to a certain point at the very beginning, as close to the arising as you can catch it, that's the best.
When it's two people, it's easier because you're both looking out for it.
Yeah, ideally, yes. Usually one person is off and running and the other person has to say, you might have like peace sign, like pause, or time out, or just come up with a code word for a pause. Because if you say to somebody in relationship, hey, stop, that's not going to go over well. You can be pretty sure.
Yeah, that's cool. It's interesting that you're saying that today, because literally just earlier I was working with a client, and while we were doing the session, every time, not tension, it's all relaxed, right? We're just doing work. Because he needs to practice that stopping and just thinking and focusing, literally like a few times that session, told him, I'm just going to say stop, and you're just going to stop whatever you're doing. We actually spoke about something really similar in episode 61 with Brendan about having hard conversations with your partner. And he suggested having a random object, a coin, anything that will symbolize that you need attention and you need your partner to focus on you right now on this important topic, you could have another random object just to remind yourselves to check in, to take a deep breath, to see where you're headed to and how you could deal with this in the best way possible. It really refocuses your mind in the whole situation. Like, what's going on here? Do I really want to fight about this, or is there something else here that's going on?
That's right. It takes you out of your reaction. It interrupts the cycle of reaction begets another reaction, begets another reaction, and it interrupts it so that you can actually see, as you said, well, what's really going on here? And the pause might be 3 breaths. It might be 10 minutes. It might be, wow, I need to take a walk around the block. That's my pause. I'm gone for 10 minutes. And another thing that we have set up is the code word is apple. We have apple, if something really, because that's a very neutral term, right? It's a nice apple. So apple means I'm at my capacity. I can't keep engaging. I love you. And I'm taking a break, because that the bridge is I'm here. I'm not leaving. Because if somebody just like pulls away and leaves, that can be very distressing for some of us, depending on how we're wired, depending on our attachment style. We can say, oh my God, that feels like you're abandoning me. But really, if the underlying piece is I'm here, I love you, I'm at my limit. I've hit my limit. It's not about you. I'm at my limit, and I'm going to take a pause, and I'll be back when I'm calm and available to communicate. So this is something that it's so simple, and yet to practice it and to really use it is tremendous.
I like that one. It's preparing you for all situations. But if you're in a fight, let's say not a fight, but like you said earlier, having that code word to just calm down when things are escalating, I think that's a great one to do. Even if your partner isn't on board and isn't interested in these types of things, you could do it for yourself, that whenever you catch, you just stop and go take a drink, right? You yourself are going to take those 3 breaths, even if your partner is not willing to do it. So by you changing, automatically that changes the pattern of what's happening, and your partner is going to have to change too.
That's right. That's very well put. Yeah, you take responsibility, and whoever can lead, you're the leader by default. So you're leading internal self-management rather than escalation. So if you can lead that, then you're leading your team, as it were, because a relationship is a team. You're leading your team to success, to harmony, to peace. Because for me, success is we're in harmony, we're peaceful, we're still growing, we're still evolving, but we're at peace. And we don't need to have gigantic explosions, or sometimes called ruptures, to grow. We don't need to do that to each other. There's enough chaos in the world. We don't need to have, extreme chaos inside of our relationship.
Yeah. I feel like once you have that calmness, that harmony in your relationship, it goes into other areas of your life, because you yourself are in peace. But then when you go to work, then you're feeling calm also. When you go to the grocery store, you're feeling calm also. So even though things happen, doesn't mean that you're not going to feel irritated ever or have emotions, but everything's okay. It's harmony. It's fine.
That's right. Yeah. And actually, when you're in a healthy relationship, as you said, it holds you. There's a certain sense of I'm held. I'm held inside of the moment at the grocery store, the traffic, the person that cuts you off, whatever it is. It's like I'm held. And it's not to say that being in a partnership is better than being single. It's just different. You have a team. I'm a really big fan of having a team. Then we do it together. We don't have to dig the entire garden by ourselves. We do it together. We collaborate. We cooperate. And it's a certain kind of nourishment that comes, and a feeling at its best, a feeling of really like, oh, I'm held. I'm really held. I'm held on the inside, because that's the thing. When you're connected to yourself, there's that sense of inner peace, or kind of connection to something much deeper that then holds us. It's very stabilizing. It's very settling for our system. And the same thing can be true in a relationship.
Yeah. For sure. Okay, so let's go back to what we said. If we want to improve our relationship, we are becoming self-aware, knowing how we're reacting with ourselves. And then once we identify what we're doing wrong, or what could be better, I should say, how do we go about it and improve ourselves so that way we could improve the relationship?
Well, for example, if you have a tendency to be critical, either self-critical or critical of someone else, if you're in a relationship, and you start noticing that the criticism, because criticism is just, it really snuffs out the magic in a relationship, and it's really draining when we do it to ourselves. So as soon as you become aware of that, then you make a commitment. It's almost like you set yourself another direction. You realize, oh, if I want to improve, what's my goal? My goal is to be in harmony. My goal is to have a loving relationship. My goal is to have a building relationship where we're cheering. ourselves and each other on. My partner had he works in computers, and he was working on something very complicated. All of a sudden, the whole app just totally evaporated. And I watched him in the middle of this project, like it just disappeared off of his computer. And I watched him, and I just gave him space to experience what he was experiencing. I was cooking some lunch. I said to him, do you want food? He snaps at me, no. But I already knew he needs to eat lunch, So my direction, I didn't take it personally. That's one thing you can do, is you cannot take it personally if someone is being critical. You cannot take it personally if you're being critical. You can just actually turn and say to that critical part, actually, no, thank you. And you have to keep refocusing, as you said, on your direction. Be really clear. Maybe, have an affirmation, write it down. Have some guiding, maybe one in each kind of area of your life. What is your guiding? What is your guidance? What is your direction? My direction is to be building. So if I feel the arising of kind of the critical mind, the looking for what's wrong, the nitpickiness, the nagginess, whatever it is, I can feel it. That's what I also want to say is use your body, right? Your breath, as we said, is a great ally, and your breath will change. Your breath will probably become a little bit short, maybe contracted. You might feel constriction somewhere in here. So use your physical awareness to then be a signal to say, oh, I'm going down that road. That takes me over there. I don't actually want to go there. I want to go here. I want to go on the road to love. I want to go on the road to kindness. I want to be on the road to, living a life where I'm grateful for my partner rather than giving them grief. And so to just recognize the physical, the sort of, we can say the somatic signals, the body signals that come up. And then so you recognize, you pause, you breathe, kind of do an internal reset. This doesn't have to take a long time. And then you say, okay, I'm going to make him some kale anyway, because I know he's hungry. And on top of that, I'm going to cook him up some eggs and toast because I know he likes that too. And he's having a hard moment and I have bandwidth. Does that make sense?
A lot of sense. Now, how has working in relationships, writing your book, that whole process affect your own relationship?
It's definitely improved it because now I know all the things to do if I want to snuff out the fires of love. And I know all the things to do if I want to really build a healthy, thriving relationship because I did the research. I interviewed people. My book is called Being Together. So what is it to really be with somebody, to be with yourself, to be with someone else? Yeah, I feel like I've become a better person by writing the book. And it's become that much more obvious to me when I'm in my own stuff or I get snagged by my own habit patterns or my own reactivity. And it's also made me have more compassion for my partner because I think having compassion and acceptance and understanding for one another's humanness is really important. Like, make room. We're human. We're doing our best.
Yeah. And once you understand the other person, you know how to deal in the situation. You're like, okay, like you said in this example, when his whole work just disappears and the app is just not there and he snaps at you, you got lucky that you got to see exactly the whole thing happen versus if he would be working in an office and walk into the door and just snaps at you and you're like, okay, what did he do to me? But really there was a story that happened, something else, a story behind it, something else happened.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
making this space to try to understand and try to see what's happening, and then it's just easier to go along with it and realize that it's not all about you. There's much more there and there's so much more you could do.
That's right. Absolutely. You make such a good point also about like understanding, or sometimes we talk about, study your partner. They study you too. This is not a one-way street. I'm not just saying that I'm the one being compassionate and understanding with him all the time. There's a mutual flow between us. And so to really study your partner and get, oh, this is just his thing that he does when he's frustrated or baffled by what's happened at his work, for instance. So there's a lot to be said for studying your partner, really taking time when things are easy and just observe what makes them tick, what makes them happy. Where do they get frustrated? Because then you start to understand that where they're coming from, and absolutely that it's not about you. That's one thing. If you can just not take things personally, I know we hear that over and over, but it's huge. It's just absolutely huge. Don't take things personally. And the other thing that's great, if you want to really have a happy relationship, leave the past in the past. If you dredge up stories of something that happened yesterday, last week, 2 years ago, that thing with that other person, it doesn't matter. It's done. It's over. Leave the past in the past and respond in the present. You'll have a much better time if you leave the past in the past. Trust me.
Sure. For people that have that habit, it's really hard, but it's so worth it.
It is. It takes practice. That's the other thing, that everything we're talking about here takes practice. You must practice. You can't expect yourself to just get it right off the bat. It's going to take practice. We're going to mess up. We're going to make the same mistake over and over and over until we don't.
Yeah, exactly. While you were doing your research in the couples, what was the top 1 or 2 things that you saw all those amazing couples had?
There were definitely common themes, and those turned into the chapters, because those were things that people that had been in relationships, healthy relationships over time, where they were aware, where they had done the work and were doing the work. I mean, I feel like, and I've said it, but I feel like gratitude, appreciation, even during an argument, try and appreciate what your partner is doing and recognize that they are over there and they're doing what they can do, and appreciate them for that. So being grateful, really, they say, I mean, there's a couple of things you can think about. 5 appreciations a day. 5 minimum.
They say for healthy relationships, there needs to be a 5-to-1 ratio of positive to negative.
That's right. At least 5-to-1. And then there's 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 things are, thank you for this. I appreciate you did that. And then one thing. After you've done 9, hey, I'm wondering if you might be willing to like a suggestion for improvement or a request. But usually, very often, we're really heavy on the requests and not as generous with the appreciation. So definitely minimum of 5-to-1, even 9 out of 10 if you can swing it. Yeah. So appreciation, gratitude, I would say, I mean, of course there's love. That's the underlying, but these are flavors of love or expressions of love. Gratitude is an expression of love. And acceptance, really accepting. Don't try and change the person. For me, one of the top priorities for a partner is that they're willing to grow. But that's not willing to change into the person that I want them to be or that I think they should be. That's just that they're on their own evolutionary journey. They're looking at themselves, they're growing. They're probably getting counseling or coaching on some kind of active self-discovery journey, I would say. That's a huge priority. If somebody says, well, I just am the way I am, I'm not willing to change, that'd be a deal breaker for me. But, gratitude and acceptance. And then something that really helps get through, like kind of a lubricant, is humor. Humor is huge in a relationship. You want to have someone who you can laugh with, who makes you laugh, you make them laugh, and you can laugh. If you can laugh in the middle of an argument or soon thereafter, that's a sign of health. That it doesn't take, 10 hours of processing, and that shortly thereafter, I mean, you still want to look at it. You want to see what's really happening. What's up? What did we do? Where did our signals get crossed? And you want to be able to laugh. You want to be able to laugh at yourself, at your own neuroses, your own, yeah.
Awesome. Guys, you'll want to check out Padma's book, Being Together. I'll put all her links in the show notes. Thank you so, so much, Padma. This was amazing.
It was so fun, Esty. Totally. Thank you so much for having me.
Did you enjoy that episode? Could you do me a personal favor and subscribe and leave a review? It would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much and have an awesome day.